The first module in this keyword research guide is about keyword evaluation. And keyword evaluation comes down to three factors. First, you need to know about the search volume for any given keyword. Then you need to know about the search trends. And finally, you need to know about the commercial value of a keyword. And in this first video, we're going to learn everything you need to know about search volume. So search volume, quite simply, how many people are searching for a particular keyword. That's what we want to know. And to find out, we're going to use the Google Keyword Research Tool. To find this research tool, simply go to Google and do a search for keyword tool, and the top results will be the keyword tool. So you go in there and you have to solve a CAPTCHA, and then you can go and use the program. Now in this field in the top left corner, you can enter a keyword or several keywords. And just to demonstrate how this tool works, I'm just going to add one, hiking boots. That's just a random keyword, and hit search and see what the tool returns. And here we have it. It returns this list of keywords with data. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click here to sort them by global monthly search volume. So now we see these keywords, and as you can see, I typed in hiking boots, and the keyword tool goes and gets suggestions for keywords related to what I typed in. I've now sorted it by search volume, and as you can see at the top we have women's shoes, and globally this term is searched for about 11 million times every month. Then we have men's shoes with 9 million searches, walking shoes with 1 million searches, and so on and so forth. And right now the only column we're interested in is this one in the middle, the global searches, and the others, competition and trends and so on, we'll have a look at later. Now this is the most simple and most rudimentary metric for a keyword, is how many people are searching for it. And as you can see, I'm already getting a lot of suggestions. In fact, it's returned 100 suggestions, and I can have them display all on this page. All of these keywords related to hiking boots. Now there is one additional factor you need to know about when it comes to search volume, and that is match types. There are three different match types. There is broad match, phrase match, and exact match. And this is something that there's a lot of confusion and misinformation about. And so hopefully I can explain to you the meaning and relevance of these three different match types, and that's what we're going to look at right now. Now, one of the reasons why this might be a bit of a confusing topic is that these different match types have slightly different meanings, whether you're doing a Google search or whether you're looking at keyword research and looking at the search volumes. And I'm going to try to explain this to you, and this might look a bit complex and a bit complicated right now, but it's going to make sense in just a few minutes. So hold on, we're going to move through all of these different possibilities, and I'm going to demonstrate exactly what each one means. First of all, let's look at Google search itself. If we do a broad match search, then Google will return all of the pages featuring the words we typed in the search box anywhere on the page, anywhere in any order. So here's a demonstration of this. I'm doing a search for the term blue vintage car. All right, I typed in blue vintage car, and here are the results. And as you can see right away, the top results actually says classic car blue book values. Okay, the top result does not actually feature the three words I typed in that order. First of all, Google went ahead and realized that classic car is a synonym for vintage car, and so it lists this result. And secondly, even though I typed blue first, then vintage, then car, it's showing me a result that says car first and then blue. And especially if we go down and look at some of the later pages, and remember, all Google is trying to do is trying to give me the most relevant result for my search term. If I go really far back in the search results, I'm on page 55 now, and you see some of the results here that, for example, here you have the words are featured. It says cars here, it says something about vintage t-shirts, it says something about denim blue. So it features the three words that I typed, but clearly they're spread out all over the page. And that is a broad match search result. All right. Google is simply returning any page it can find in its index that features the three words I typed in, no matter how they're spread out over the page, and no matter how relevant they are to each other. So that is a broad match search result. All right. And you can also do a phrase match search, and in this case Google will only return pages featuring the exact words you typed in the exact sequence and order you typed them in. So let's look at an example of that. The simple way to do this is I just add quotes to my keyword, blue vintage car in quotes. I hit enter, and now you see that all of the pages returned feature blue vintage car, blue vintage car, blue vintage car, blue vintage car, exactly as I typed it in. And even if I go to the last page of the results, even the last page features blue vintage car exactly as I typed it in. And that is phrase match results. All right. So that's the difference between the search results in broad match or phrase match. Now, if we're doing keyword research and looking at the search volumes, then for the broad match results, any search query that anyone types in featuring the words I typed in any order, and even if they're among other words, counts towards this number. If we go into the keyword research tool again, and we look at the top result here, women's shoes, 11 million searches. Now, just to give you a practical example, if someone types in, obviously if someone types in women's shoes, then this search query is counted towards those 11 million, okay? But if someone types cheap women's shoes, that is also counted towards those 11 million, right? Even though it includes one more word. And the same, no matter how long the string of words is I put in here, as long as women's and shoes is featured, the search query counts towards these 11 million. And even if I put in something between women's and shoes, so if I say running shoes right here, cheap women's running shoes, this search also counts towards this search volume number right here. Okay, so any search featuring these words in any order among other words is counted towards this. Now over here you see that I can tell the keyword research tool to show me exact and phrase match results also. And let's see what happens when I do that. Now we have women's shoes, this is the broad match up here, phrase match here, and exact match here. As you can see, the search volume for the phrase match is 3.3 million. That's significantly less than broad match. So let's have a look at what that means. For the search volume in phrase match, every search featuring the words in the exact sequence that you put them in counts. Okay? So in this case, cheap women's running shoes does not count because women's shoes is not in the order I typed them in. But cheap women's shoes counts because women's shoes is exactly as it typed it in. Okay? So again, no matter how long the string of words someone types in here, as long as women's and shoes are next to each other in this order, the search counts towards this number of search volume. Okay? And that is the phrase match search volume. Finally, there's the exact match search volume. And for this feature, Google only counts searches of the exact keyword that you put in. In other words, only this search here, this exact search, counts towards these 673,000 searches a month. All right, that is the exact match. Now you might be wondering, what about Google search and exact match? And currently this is just being ignored. Theoretically, there's no difference between an exact match and a phrase match search in the search results. But if I go ahead and put square brackets around this and search for this, you'll see that there's no difference. Same amount of results, same results listed. So Google is ignoring the square brackets in the search results. And that means we can ignore it as well. So this bottom left one just doesn't matter. What matters is that you understand the difference between broad match and phrase match in the search results, and that you understand the significance of broad match, phrase match, and exact match when it comes to how the search volume for every keyword is counted. Now, if this was a bit too much for you, just watch this video again or go through the documentation where I talk about this as well. And I promise it will make perfect sense to you as soon as you play around with it a little bit in the keyword research tool and do some of these searches yourself. It will make perfect sense to you pretty soon. Now, let's go back into the keyword research tool. Now, you might be wondering, if you manage to get, and I mean that would be pretty cool because the search volume is very high, but let's say you manage to get a web page of yours listed in the top spot for the keyword women's shoes. Now, you might be wondering how many people actually see your website in the top spot. Well, it's definitely not 11 million people, okay? Because if you rank highest for women's shoes and someone looks for women's hiking shoes or cheap women's running shoes or a book about women's shoes or something like that, then your page will probably not be listed on top. So it's probably going to be less than 11 million. It's probably going to be closer to the phrase match results. But even here, there might be differences. So even for looking at all of the phrase match searches, again, your website optimized for women's shoes will not show up on top for every one of these people. It will show up for every one of these searches. Okay, if your page shows up for women's shoes in the top spot, then that means that about 670,000 people a month will see your site in the top spot. So that's good. So in other words, if you want to know the search volume, it's going to be less than the broad match search volume, but it's going to actually be more than the exact match search volume, because in addition to people typing in women's shoes, you will also get people typing in other queries where your page happens to be in the top spot, even though you didn't plan for it. And that's what we call long tail search traffic. So, some people by pure chance are going to search for a string of words that matches exactly some sentence that you have on your website. So you do get some search volume that you didn't actually plan for and that didn't actually optimize for. So if you're trying to find out how many people will actually see my website month for month listed on the top spot, it's going to be less than broad match volume and it's going to be more than exact match volume. But here's the thing, don't overthink this, all right? Look, it is important that you understand the significance of these different match types, but don't try and get out the calculator and find out exactly how many people, how many searches you'll get and how many clicks you'll get and whatnot. Don't overthink it. It's important that you know that you can't expect a broad match volume, that you can't expect all of those people to see your site. That's important to know. The other thing that's important to know is that the search volume displayed in the Google keyword research tool is not 100% accurate. All right. I don't know exactly why it's not accurate. It's probably just because of the vast amount of data that Google has to crunch through to give you these results. So these are just ballpark figures anyway. And sometimes they're way off. It can happen that the search volumes is way off what it realistically is. But usually, as a ballpark figure, it's good enough. So, if you look at this, and this says 600,000 searches, this might be anything between, let's say, 500 and 800,000 searches a month in practice. And that's good enough, right? That's good enough as a ballpark figure. So again, don't overthink it because it's not that precise anyway. Now, I added a bonus section here where I talk about how you can find out the precise amount of searches something gets, but that's some pretty advanced stuff, so I added that to the end of the training. With that, I think you already know enough about search volume. In fact, if you understand this match type stuff, then you already know more than the vast majority of people do about search volumes. And that concludes this first module on search volume. This next video in the keyword research guide is still in the module of keyword evaluation, and this time we're going to have a look at search trends. And I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that search trends is actually a very simple subject for SEO purposes. There's not really much to it, and this will be a very short and painless video, especially perhaps compared to the last one. Alright, search trends. Here are a few examples to start out. This here is a trend graph for the keyword Christmas gifts. And to no one's surprise, this is a very seasonal search term. And of course, people are searching for Christmas gifts mainly in December and not so much during the rest of the year. And that's what it looks like. Here's another example. Here we have, this is for the keyword Amy Winehouse. And as you can see, demand for this keyword took off sometime early 2007 and then reached a peak in early 2008, and ever since it has been on the decline. And of course, if you are looking to pick a keyword to optimize a website for, you want to make sure that it's not on the decline. So Amy Winehouse would not be a good keyword to start building a site around at this point. But before we get into all that, let's just have a look at how do we find these kind of trend graphs in the first place. There's many places where you can find graphs like that, and two in particular that I recommend are Google Insights and Google Trends. Now, these two are very similar, but because Insights has a few more features, that's the one I recommend. You can find Google Insights by going here to this URL. You can also find it by just typing in Google Insights into Google and picking the first result. You can also find it if you are in the keyword research tool. There's this little icon next to each keyword. You can click on this to get to Google Insights for that keyword. And here's what it looks like. This is Google Insights, and let's just give this a whirl right now. I'm not going to change any of the settings. Let's just go with hiking boots once again and search for that. And here it comes back with this graph here, with this trend graph. And as you can see, it tries to associate news stories with different changes in the trend. You can get rid of these if you want to, and just look at the graph. So here we see that hiking boots was more in demand 2004 and 2005 than it is now, but it looks like it's more or less a stable trend. Now further down we have some geographical data and some data on related keywords, and I'm going to say a few quick things about this later on in the video. But right now the important bit is really this here, just this trend that we're looking at here. When you're looking at these trends, there's really only three things you have to ask yourself. First of all, is it an upward, a downward, or a stable trend? And obviously, if you're going to build a website around a keyword, you want it to be either an upward trend or a stable trend. The next question is it seasonal? And this doesn't have to be a bad thing necessarily. Some keywords are seasonal. The only problem is if you're looking at a keyword with a medium to low search volume, and it turns out this medium to low search volume is at the peak of its trend, at the peak of its seasonal spike, then it's not a good keyword to go for, right? Because you don't want a keyword that only gets, let's say, 10,000 searches at the peak during 1 month a year, and then doesn't get searched for during the rest of the year. That's probably not going to be worth your time. On the other hand, if you have a keyword that gets 10,000 searches a month and it turns out that it's at a low point and at a later point in the year it will have a peak, a seasonal peak, then that's good news. Okay, so all you really want to know there is, are the search numbers you're looking at, are they at a high point or a low point in the season, and base your decision on that. And then finally, you can also have a look at regions and related searches and that stuff. But that's not very relevant most of the time. So as an example, if you are, let's say you are an affiliate to some store that ships physical products, and they ship physical products only to a particular country, then obviously you want to go to Insights and look at, what the demand for this particular product is in that country. So that would be an important factor. But I think in most cases, with all kinds of information products and even with most physical products, the demand is always global, because nowadays, of course, information products can be downloaded from anywhere, and even physical products are nowadays shipped all over the world. So usually for SEO purposes, this isn't very important. If you're starting to buy advertisement, if you're starting to pay for traffic, then geographical and demographical data becomes important. But for SEO purposes, not so important. So mainly question, upward, downward, or stable trend, and is it seasonal or not? And that's really all there is to it. We'll encounter this again, these trends, we'll encounter them again in the process map when we're going through the step-by-step process of uncovering keywords, and one of the steps will be to give the trends a quick look. Welcome to this third and final video in the keyword evaluation module of the Keyword Research Guide. And this module is about commercial intent. Now, what does commercial intent mean? What are we after here? Basically, for any given keyword, you ask yourself, is the person typing in this search query, are they in a buying mood? That's the question we want answered. Because obviously, for most purposes, we want people to come to our website who are willing and ready to buy something. So here are some very simple examples or very obvious examples just to demonstrate that different keywords have an underlying and have different underlying commercial intent. So obviously if someone types something that starts with free, or if someone searches for free music downloads or free antivirus or whatever, they're probably not looking to spend money. The same if they add torrent, they're probably looking for a free download. And the same for download, if someone goes download antivirus or download whatever, then they're probably looking to get something for free, and they're probably not, searching with credit card in hand. And on the other hand, if someone types a query that starts with buy, obviously they're looking to buy something. The same goes if someone looks for a review of something. People who, when you're looking for reviews, trying to find out which product is best, you've probably already made up your mind that you want to buy something. And also something like cheap or bargain or bonus or whatever, anything that indicates that someone's looking for a bargain is actually also a buying keyword, because while they're looking for a cheap option, they are willing to pay for it. So those would be buying keywords with high commercial intent. But of course, it's not always that obvious. It's not always as obvious as these two examples that I just gave you. So one thing, to expand on this a little bit, one thing you need to know about is the so-called buying cycle. Basically, most people go through a buying cycle. We start out not being sure about whether we want to buy something, and we go through this cycle until we finally make a buying decision. And here are the stages in this buying cycle. The first stage is where you're looking for general information about something. And this is when you're not quite sure whether you want to buy something or not. Let's say you're just looking for general information on digital cameras, and you're not yet sure, do I really need a digital camera? Do I want a compact small one? Do I want a larger one? So you're not really sure, you haven't really made up your mind whether you really want to go for a camera or not. So you're looking for some general information. And then the next stage would be that you start looking for reviews and comparisons. So at this point you've probably decided, okay, I think I really want a digital camera, but I want to find out which one's the best one for me. So you go and have a look for reviews. The next stage would be that you look for specific information on maybe one or two different models. So now you've actually decided, okay, I want this compact camera from whatever brand, and you go and search for some specific information. Maybe you want to know more information about a specific feature. And maybe you want to find some customer feedback or something like that. And then finally, you start looking for bargains and deals. That's when you've really made up your mind, okay, I'm going to buy this camera. You know what you want to buy, and all you want to find out at this point is where can I get the best price for what I'm going to buy. And that is the typical buying cycle that most people go through in the process of deciding whether they want to buy something or not. Now, of course, for some people this can take very long. Some people are very deliberate and will spend days looking for reviews and days looking for bargains and so on. And other people go through this entire cycle in 5 minutes and make basically impulse buying decisions. But we basically all go through something like this. Now, if you can see a pattern in this, it's that specific is better, right? The more specific a search term is, the higher the likelihood that it's going to be a buying keyword. That's something we can take away from this right away. And another important factor is that you can simply use your common sense. I mean, you can look at a keyword and simply ask yourself, if I were typing in this keyword, would I be looking to spend money? Or would I be looking for a freebie? Or would I be looking just for free information? And, to a certain extent, it's simply something that you can use your common sense on. And often, I think you can make a pretty good guess about whether something has commercial intent behind it or not. However, you don't have to take a guess, because there's also some ways to find out about commercial intent. And the easiest way is to use OCI. That's the Microsoft Online Commercial Intention Calculator or Evaluator. I don't know exactly what they call it. You can find it by going here, or by simply typing Microsoft OCI into a search engine and picking the first result. And this here is what this calculator, or what this estimator looks like. What we do here is we want to search for a query, and I'm going to go with the example of women's running shoes that we looked at in the previous videos, and run this through this engine here. And here we get the result, and you can see that the result is there is a commercial intention with a probability of 0.99. So that means that it's telling me it's 99% sure that people who type in women's running shoes are in a buying mood. All right. And to contrast that against another example, let's say someone types in free music, and I search for that, and now you can see the result is non-commercial intention, 0.86 probability. So here it's telling me it's 86% sure that the person searching for free music is not looking to spend money. Okay, so you have basically commercial intention and non-commercial intention, and a range from 0 to 1. And this is a really good way to find out, to get an idea of the commercial intention of a keyword. And this is simply based on Microsoft, I'm not even sure what it's called, but just Microsoft's version of AdWords, Microsoft's pay-per-click system, and that's what they base these estimates on. So it's a pretty good estimate. It's certainly better than just taking a wild guess yourself. Another way to find out about the commercial intention behind a keyword is to go and have a look at the PPC ads when you do a search for it. So if we go and look at the search for women's running shoes, you can see that there are several pay-per-click ads that come up with this search. And that is a good sign, because it means that there are advertisers here who are paying every time someone clicks one of these ads. And since there are many of these ads here, we can assume that some of them must have been running for quite a while. And then we can assume that it's making people money, because no one wants to have PPC ads running that are costing them more than it's making them, right? So using this method to gauge the commercial interest or commercial intent behind a keyword, you want to see more than a handful of PPC ads. If you only see one or two, then you can't be sure that someone's really making money off of it. But if you see like 10 or more PPC ads for a keyword, then you can be pretty sure that someone's making money off of this, which means that the traffic is converting, which means that people are buying stuff. So that's a good sign. And those are the two simplest ways of checking the commercial intent of any given keyword. Now, in general, you want to go for keywords that have high commercial intent. This is, of course, especially true if you're selling something directly on your website. If you're selling your own product on the website, if it's an e-commerce store or a drop shipping kind of thing, then you definitely want buyers to come to your website. If it's an affiliate offer, again, you're sending people to a sales page, so you definitely want to get buying traffic, buying keywords. And a possible exception is if you monetize your site with, for example, AdWords, or by selling banner ad space, then it's not that important. But even then, if you have keywords with low commercial value, then you probably won't get a lot of expensive clicks on your AdSense ads, right? So even there, it's better to have commercial intent, or buying keywords, in other words. And perhaps the best way to monetize non-buying keywords is if you can find some kind of a freebie CPA offer to try and monetize, keywords that have low commercial intent. But even there, the advertiser paying you for this CPA offer, they want the traffic to eventually convert on the back end. They want people to eventually buy something, otherwise they wouldn't be paying for this for the CPA offer. So all in all, I think you can confidently say that you always want to go, or let's say in 95% of the cases, you want to make sure that the keywords you go for have high commercial intent, are real buying keywords. And that concludes this video as well as the module on keyword evaluation.